It's time to strap in and get ready. The leaders in NRL Supercoach are incoming. Bringing you the ultimate insight to help you win your leagues and climb up the rankings. You're now listening to the Insight NRL Show with your hosts, Braino Mattrix and Whisperer.
G'day guys, welcome back. You're watching another episode of the Insight NRL Show, and it is round 23. It is head-to-head finals have kicked off, and the run home is well and truly happening, and the show is brought to you by the Standard Squeeze and Ryan from Astute Newstead. I'm the Supercoach Brain, and as always, my co-host, the Supercoach Mattrix, is with me. Mate, how you been? A couple of days into the working week so far, and we've seen teams. How you feeling?
Shit. All my players are out. It's not good. I tell you what, the Fiddler has had some casualties. The casualty ward just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and I don't have the trades to get them all out.
It's tough, isn't it? Like we had a couple of outs that we'll talk about soon that come out of nowhere. And I tell you another really big out, my beard. Now, let me tell you a story. My beard got ruled out late Monday. So I accidentally had the wrong height level thing on the trimmers. And like I was half asleep Monday morning before I hop in the shower, and I thought, fuck, the beard's getting a bit rough. So I thought, all right, let's get this done. And didn't adjust the fucking settings on my clippers because I was that tired. And I just went straight up the middle of my chin. So I had this big runway up my chin. And
I've seen it.
Embrace the runway as a bit of a piss take, but it looked terrible, and I couldn't go like that to work. So yeah, R.I.P. my beard, but welcome to the moustache.
Yeah, but what you're leaving out there is why it was on the short settings was because you were doing your gooch. So
yeah, well, I've got to keep my gooch nice and tidy, you know. Otherwise, it just gets a bit too messy down there. But yeah, rest in peace to my beard. But it'll be back. I don't think I can hold on to this too long. My missus won't let me. And also another funny story. I nearly didn't make the pod tonight. With thanks, shout out to my new house, who my dishwasher shorted a circuit. And it wasn't good. I thought I was going to be laid out tonight as well. And you're right, Cheese. I could be in Super Troopers. There's a number of other references I'm sure that will pop up tonight. But yeah, I'll embrace it. Guys, we're live, of course, as we always are. So we'll be talking plenty of round 23 trades. We'll be answering all your questions. So drop them in. We'll answer the best ones at the end of the show. Maddie's got basketball at 9 o'clock. So we'll see how we go for time. And of course, if you haven't, hit subscribe, hit like, follow, review, do all those things. If you'd love to support the channel, we would really appreciate that. We are coming up to the end of the season as well. And thank you guys for hopping on every single week. We know it can be a little bit irrelevant now, hopping on a podcast, but we appreciate the support at the back end of the year as you guys try to hopefully win your head-to-head competitions. Matty, how'd you end up last week, mate? How'd things finish up?
Shit. It was actually 11:23. I see that I just left my score due to me coming through like Stephen Bradbury here at the end, due to tackling a couple of kids into bed. But 11:23. You know what? With how bad my week was, when you have a look at the guys that I had that didn't fire, the fact that I didn't have Val, I was sort of saved on the bell by Joey Taps, and maybe some of those guys like Eli Katoa that did underperform were just guys that everybody had. But I panic traded, I vibe traded, whatever you want to call it, in Cam Munster at the end, because I had Cody Walker. I just didn't really like, I think it was Tungo's 30 break even. I probably would have got 30 AE. So had to cop that due to, again, having a 2-week-old and not putting Galvin in my starting side and having Cody Walker there. I was copping an AE regardless. But that's all Mattrix problems, not really any more problems. It was just the fact that the guys I had didn't fire, like your Dom Youngs. Yeah. I brought in Joey Manu and Cam Munster. So I basically brought in $1.1 million worth of players for 93. Not really what I'd planned on doing when I added those blokes.
No. And look, you don't ever expect those guys to really underperform like they did. But, you know, it's one of those weeks, I think. And you mentioned it was a Mattrix problem where you didn't start Galvin. And I think that's maybe a good message to everybody, just to remember to get your team set at the start of the week based on when your teams are playing or when your players are playing. anybody early in the week or playing early in the week, make sure you have them on field first and have your reserves if you have them. Have your reserves on the players that are playing late in the round, obviously, if they're not your captain or your vice captain. So otherwise you do get called out like Matty did, pretty easily by copping an AE when you probably didn't need one. You had other playable players there to use. So good little reminder for us. Mate, there's a lot of injuries, some very relevant injuries this week. So let's get into those. We've got 5 HIAs. Dylan Walker, he's out this week, got knocked out last week. Lindsay Collins, also one of those. Latu Fainu, obviously out as well. These two are weird. Heitland Lukey and Morgan Smithies have both been named this week, but got knocked out cold last week. What's going on here?
The term I would use is they got knocked the fuck out. Like Lukey, Olam got sent off from that hit. Smithies was stumbling. He saw daylight. I don't know if it's some ducks and drakes or something with them being named, and then we're just going to see what happened. I've heard a little bit of the physio stuff with Lukey there, but it's just really interesting to see them named. It wasn't expected.
No, I'm assuming they might be maybe fighting this or trying to get it overturned, because the Cowboys, what's his name? The Cowboys doctor contacted physio directly and basically said, we didn't perform a HIA assessment on Heilum Lukey, but he did get held out for the rest of the game. So I'm still trying to understand how that all works. From a negligence standpoint, is there how can you not HIA test a bloke that just got hit by a guy who got sent off the field, shoulder to chin type stuff? And you're saying you didn't do a HIA assessment. So that's interesting. But he's been named this week. And Morgan Smithies was stumbling all over the joint, like you mentioned, when he got up after that hit. And he stayed down pretty hard for a while. So I would be very surprised to see him play this weekend. So we'd probably plan, not that it really affects Supercoach teams, but I'd probably plan not to have him this week.
You know what? He probably, at times, sitting here at the end of the year, it wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world if I just sat there and left Smithies there all year. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it feels like that this year, especially with all these guys going down. Speaking of, Payne Haas out with a Liz Frank injury, so that's been confirmed. That's his season over. So obviously they're still trying to work out what they're going to do with his treatment, but if it's likely surgery, and this is the same injury that Kalen Ponga had, this is the same injury that Mitchell Moses had, so there's every chance we're going to see 3 to 5 months as a minimum and surgery for Payne Haas, so he'll be back next year. And same with Ezra Mann, mate. Cinders Moses injury, Mitchell Moses' cousin is back again, Cinders Moses, and he'll miss the rest of the season as well, Ezra Mann, unfortunately.
Yeah, cool.
Feeling good about your Broncos, eh?
Yeah, I actually went to go get I'm wearing a dirty Grizzlies jersey over my very fresh, clean, pressed Broncos sloppy Joe that I've got just sitting there on the bed that might sit there for another 6 months.
Spewing. Yeah, fair call. Fair call. Now you understand how I feel about the Tigers, being a Tigers supporter for the last, however long.
Yeah. But we had hope and good players, so yeah.
We did not. We always have hope at the start of the year, but it quickly fades. I want to mention my green screen as well.
It's Jaden Sullivan season. Oh yeah, that was. I'm glad that I come through with that one when you called me as to what to put on the green screen.
Yeah,
that was a good one.
Yeah, it's a banger. It's Jerome Luai after Origin 3 standing outside an empty Caxton hotel. So I couldn't help myself, had to do it. But this may be a double message. Luai coming to the Tigers next year. Is he going to clean out other popular hotels across the country when he travels with the West Tigers in the orange? So you never know. But let's get back to the injuries, mate. And the big one that hurts us that we didn't see coming is Eli Katoa with an MCL injury. He did come back onto the field with this one. So, but again, where we look at Tolatau Kola, who went down with the MCL, missed 4 weeks, had to have surgery, and he ended up playing it the whole game. So it's one of those injuries where maybe he can play on for a little bit, but then, obviously it's serious enough for him to get surgery. We haven't had that update for Eli Katoa yet, though.
Yeah, I'm hoping there's an update by, the time that the Storm plays, so I know just to cut my losses, burn one of my trades, because if he's out for 4 weeks, probably getting rested, they will be very cautious where the Storm are sitting at the moment. I don't think Storm and Penrith particularly care about the minor premiership. It's not like one of those teams that never win it. But yeah, I'm very, very concerned about Eli Katoa.
We're not going to talk about him much tonight, but you're holding him at least until you find more news, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, follow our socials. You and I and Whisperer will be the quickest people to find out, because I know me at the moment, every 20 minutes I'm looking for news for Eli Katoa, so surely everybody else is.
For sure. We'll keep you updated in the Discord, but also on our socials. Dom Young, mate, hamstring. News has come out, which is good news so far, that he is aiming to come back round 24. So technically we've lost about 30 minutes of Dom Young basically this year. The last fortnight, which is positive. We were always going to lose him this week anyway because Roosters were on the bye. So definitely would not be trading or panic trading Dom Young out. Even if he does miss round 24, I think we can cover it with depth. So I don't think it's the end of the world if he does miss 24, but he is aiming to be back, which is good. So definitely hold fire there. Got a question in here from Tor Pro that we can probably bring up now. Jermaine Asako has been named. We're not quite sure whether he's expected to be out yet or not. We don't know much. We haven't seen any update from NRL Physio, have we?
No, I haven't seen anything. I was actually talking to you about that on the phone. It's just a real pain in the ass that it is later on in the week, but we might bring up a little bit later some of the guys, if he's named out late or on Saturday night. There's 4 probably very Supercoach relevant teams that you can pivot across from an Asako. Did you have the trades? So, stay tuned a bit later on. I've got it already penciled in the notes, champ.
Very nice. Very nice. All right. And maybe we add on top of the Dolphins here, TPJ and Nikorima both named. TPJ was a calf injury, I think, but he's been named this week. And Cody Nikorima was an illness. So he's back as well, which is good for the Dolphins. Braden Trindle, not good for pod hunters out there that had a little crack at Braden Trindle because he was a good option. Didn't mind him as a pod option. Unfortunately, hamstring 2 to 4 weeks is the word at the moment, which is not good for the Sharks, but even worse if you're a pod hunter. But there are a couple of options you can go to. What would you do with him now? Very quickly, if you were a Trindle owner, will you just bail on him now?
What is he, 500k at the moment?
I think he got to 600, didn't he? Let me check.
If he's 600k, he's nearly 700k. Fuck. 73. I'm panicking about 600k of Payne Haas sitting there. If you bet me $100,000 at the start of the year that Braden Trindle would ever reach more than Payne Haas, I would have lost $100,000. But I think that you've got enough money there to move Braden Trindle onto most halves. Just do it. Move him on. Cut your losses. Are you really holding off on 700k sitting there on the bench for the last 4 weeks and getting 2 weeks out of him? No,
not at all. And look, here's a pod. So we're not going to spend a ton of time talking about Braden Trindle replacements tonight, but there are some decent options out there anyway. So, should be a pretty easy cover. Now, Josh Curran, AC joint injury, mate. He ended up going off the field, I think, after 20-odd minutes, and then he came back on. He only played, I think, 40 minutes on the weekend, but he did come on and play in the second half after he did injure that shoulder. AC joint injuries, we know, are more contact and more pain tolerance than anything, but just being a forward and being a prop, more so a middle forward, probably just creates more doubt with the amount of contact he's going to go through week to week.
Yeah, I need one of these blokes that have the front row forward eligibility, and this is enough to keep me away. The bench doesn't particularly suit Josh Curran either. Again, I don't think he's a sell if you need somebody in a pinch. If you've got 5 trades left, definitely don't trade this bloke. But just don't bring him in. Just don't chase him, is probably the point I'm trying to get across.
Yeah, for sure. Jacob Fisher in the chat, Trindle only misses this week, so there is a chance that he could potentially be back next week. Just going off what NRL Physio said regarding high re-injury rate, so up to 30% re-injury rate of hamstrings. The usual return of play is 2 to 4 weeks. So if he's back in 2 weeks, fantastic. And, I'd probably stick with him then if you didn't need a playable player this week. You're hoping he's back in around 24. So,
yep.
We did talk you into him. So, sorry, mate.
Yep, that's what I do. Ruin hopes and dreams.
But the rest of the injuries aren't overly relevant. For Supercoach Olam, he's having both of his knees done, so he's out. He's finished for the year. It's funny, isn't it? Thanks, Riley. Appreciate that. Olam's getting both knees surgical. I don't know what it is exactly, but he's had a fair few issues with those knees. So they're calling his season done and dusted after that suspension. They're not even contesting it. They're basically just saying, yeah, his season's over. Nat Butcher, rib cartilage issue. So, not great for Nat Butcher. Usually it's about a 2 to 4 week return to play for him too. Bo Fermor, maybe we should talk about him. Bruised kidney, which is definitely not a regular injury. A bit of a pod as well, wasn't he? Because I've seen him in some teams this week, this year, with the centre wing duel.
You know what? He's been low-key fantastic this week. We've all, focused on David Fafita the whole time. But 600K Bo Firm has been electric. I think that you just hold they're probably just being a bit precautionary as well, to be honest. But yeah, kidney bruising, I haven't seen that too much.
No, strange one, isn't it? So yeah, we'll keep an eye out on him. But that probably does. I mean, it solidifies Angus Crichton for one. I don't think we're really worried about him. But we also don't really have much news around injuries per se for the Roosters because they're on the bye. So it's just not. It's not ideal there. What do we? Jacob Saifidi.
So I did read an article from the Roosters on Nat Butcher, and they said that Nat Butcher and Dom Young are both targeting. 24. What round are we in? 20. Yeah, around 24 return. That's all that they've said. So read into that what you will. But I think with the injury wise, Dom Young's a better chance than Nat Butcher. Not that you have Nat Butcher. But
no, that's right. No, more so Terrell May relevance maybe if he gets some minutes on an edge or something.
True.
Who knows? Jacob Saifidi, he did a calf in the pre-game warm-up, so we won't see him for a little bit. We talked about Asako, TPJ, and Nikora. They've all been named, which is good, but keep an eye out. Late mail. Matty's got a little prep for you on how you can bail on Asako if you really need to. And then Jake Granville, he did a peck. So not much news around him, but not overly Supercoach relevant anyway. So we can move past him, mate, and we can move into the weekly preview. And the weekly preview brought to you by Ryan from Astute Newstead. For those of you who want to save a little bit of coin, maybe you have a high interest rate above 6.2%. Maybe you want to buy your first home as well. You want to get into the market. Maybe you want to renovate or just save some coin. Then you can reach out to Ryan from Astute Newstead, who will give you a obligation and cost-free inquiry. It won't cost you a thing. He'll just have a chat with you about your situation and he'll help you out, save some money, get into that dream home of yours. His link tree is in the description below. Now, Matty, Sydney Roosters are on the bye, which hurts us because there are a lot of very good high-owned players from the Roosters this week. So it makes those last-minute Eli Katoa outs and things like that, the Trindle outs, really hurt even more, doesn't it?
I did the count of who I'd have to play if I had to rule out Dom Young, Crichton, and Tedesco last week, and I am so glad that I brought in Joseph Manu for his 30.
Yeah, that hurts. I mean, again, we spoke about it earlier. It's not a bad move per se.
Yeah,
it's a good matchup. It just didn't work out.
I know. Probably cucked into playing somebody like Targo or something like that. So all I'm mentioning it is because if you're in the same position as me, I feel you, brother.
Yes, especially with head-to-head finals kicking off this week. The last thing you want to be is from 5th to 8th in your comp. And
so I focus on my overall, and I've actually slid into a couple of head-to-head finals, and I'm absolutely fucking no chance.
I might be a head-to-head player this year, to be honest with you. Like, I feel like my rank's okay, but I'm in, I think, 6 cash comps, and I'm second in 4 of them and third in 2 of them. So, it's just been one of the most dream runs ever. And Hamo's going to hate me for it because he, in our $50 Insight League, has the same amount of overall points as me or just there or thereabouts. And he's like 9th or something or 10th in the same league and I'm 3rd. So it's kind of funny the matchups play a part. But, mate, head-to-head finals do begin. I think it is very important to be aware of your matchups and be looking at your matchup, your opposition players very consistently throughout the week. Any advice for those of you that are in your finals, in your top 8? What's the advice for head-to-head, mate?
So if you're sitting there with Tedesco and we focus this podcast mainly, I wouldn't say solely, just mainly on all this, raising your rank, getting a better rank every year, having a listen, everything like that. But if you're sitting there with a James Tedesco and it's, $100 a person and it could win you $1,000, I think you do roll the dice on bringing somebody in if the other player is doing the same thing, like bringing in a Ponga or something instead of a Tedesco that's going to score you 0 points, instead of playing a Jake Tungo like I have to do this week. That's 100 points. That could get you through to the following week. There's no point, if you don't really care about your overall rank or anything, holding Tedesco, getting knocked out of all your head-to-head finals. I'm okay with getting knocked out of all my head-to-head finals because, of course, we get rated on our rank. People ask me about my rank and everything all the time. But if you're just out here to make money in your head-to-head leagues, or you really want the Swish voucher or whatever the fuck they're giving you this year, then yeah, just use the trade. Get in somebody like Ponga or somebody instead of your Tedescos, your Dom Youngs, your Manu. When I have a look, I've got $2.5 million worth of Roosters players sitting on my bench. That is not going to win me a head-to-head comp.
No, absolutely not. And that's you mentioned really well there. Like that's where you take your risk. If you're in 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th in your league at the moment, you need to know that if you lose, you will be knocked out. So, if you're in your top 4, maybe you don't need to take that risk. And I think that's probably the message is if you're sitting 3rd at the moment or 2nd in a comp or whatever, if you lose, you then play an elimination game against whoever won their matchups from 5 to 8 and 6 to 7. So you've got an opportunity there potentially to, not take a week off, but just not make those really rash last-minute moves to try and win a matchup if you're in your top 4. That's probably the way I'd approach it. So, and that's the way I'll be approaching it. This is exactly the reason why I'm holding Tedesco. I'm holding Dom Young. I'm holding Gus Crichton. I only just bought him, but I'm not trading out any of these guys because, yeah, you're right. We do get judged on our rank every single year, so we need to make sure we look after that. But there's thousands of dollars on the line in these head-to-head comps. So you at the end of the day, you want to make sure you win a couple. So. I think maybe the other thing to be aware of would just be watching what your matchup is doing as well. If they're going to make a last-minute trade, just keep an eye on their team because you'll be able to see that as you go throughout the week. You'll be able to see the changes they make. Probably the advice I'd give you is make your changes to your team as late as possible or as close to the game starting as possible, just so that you don't give your opponent time to then adjust to the move you've just made. So if you want to make a pod move to try and win your head-to-head matchup, do it as late as possible, close to when they're playing. Just don't, whatever you do, forget to make that change and then fuck your whole team up. That's probably the advice I'd give you. But, Matty, the front row forward conundrum continues. Last week we spoke in depth around replacements for Terrell May. Now we're talking about replacements for Payne Haas, and it's kind of opened the door, hasn't it, for a little bit of a pod play, I guess. Like when we look at the most owned guys in front row forward, the most owned front row forward in the top 10% is Adam Fanua-Blake for good reason. I'm going to give you 7 guys that are probably the 7 best options in my opinion. And I want you to rate them. I want you to blind rate them. So I'm not going to tell you, it might be in a random order. I want you to rate them from 1 to 7 as we go. So just give them a number between 1 and 7, all right? Joseph Tarpany.
2.
Samuela Fainu.
6.
Okay.
We're talking about bringing them in, so yeah.
Yep. Josh Curran.
7.
Yeah, okay. Ruben Cotter.
4.
Adam Fanua-Blake.
3.
Mitch Barnett.
1.
Ooh. Xavier Willison. So Xavier Willison's 2.
No, Joey Taps was 2.
Oh,
so he's 5 or 4 or 5.
Okay,
5.
So let's recap that then in order. It'd be Mitch Barnett at 1, you reckon? Best option this week, you reckon, to bring in?
Yeah, I think he is the best option. Like, I don't think everyone can afford him. But if you've got the money, yeah, Mitch Barnett is the best option. Correct.
Joey Tapine, number 2.
Yeah, Joey Tapine is number 2. Actually, you know what? This was a blind thing, but I do probably rate Joey Taps. I'd bring in Joey Taps before Mitch Barnett, I think. So,
is that price dependent too, right? Like you're probably
this is price dependent as well. Like you're getting I think it's 100K. Joey Taps coming off a 98. Joey Taps has just been super consistent all year, averaging 66. Yeah, I think that he's probably the best option. But let's just leave that there. He doesn't have a buy either, whereas Barnett does in the last round. So
it's 180K difference between Barnett and Tarpany. Yeah,
there you go. Yep, that's worth it. Taps is 1. Yep.
Taps is 1, Barnett's 2. Who did we say was 3?
AFB.
Yep, fair call.
Yep.
So you're saying that if you'd be buying Tarpany and Barnett before you would buy AFB?
Yeah, look, realistically, I don't want to spend 850K on a front row forward, but I would buy Joey Taps before AFB. Just the fact that it's not reliant, and I'm looking for my overall score. So again, but Joey Taps is going to get you, I think, 70 every week.
Yeah.
And AFB is going to get you 40 and then 103. So,
yeah, which is a 65, 70 average, which is fine. But when we're talking about head-to-heads as well, that 40 could be in a week where a few other players let you down and you lose your head-to-head matchup in finals. Yep. So you know what you're going to get with Tarpany, you know what you're going to get with Barnett. So that's a good point. Yep. Number 4 was who?
Ruben Cotter.
Okay.
I like him. He is like Tarpany light. He's going to consistently get you 55. Now, this was a blind ranking, and I actually rate number 5 more, but that's only price dependent. So I'm just more thinking about what I can do with that extra 150K. Yep. And I think Xavier Willison, I delved into the stats. I actually thought it might have been more, but he averages like 49.7 when Haas is out of the team. He's been named to start. Green light Willison for me. But it's only price dependent. Ruben Cotter's going to score more, but I realistically just think it's going to be 5 points. And you're saving that 10 times over with Willison.
Fair. Yeah, fair enough. And so Willison is 5 for you, which...
Yep.
Talk about Willison a little bit more later, maybe, because you've looked into him a fair bit. And then we've got 6. Was it Curran 6 or Finu 6?
Finu 6. Yep. Finu is, as the name suggests, fine. I don't think he's a buy now. Not with the Tigers have a buy as well.
Round 26, head-to-head grand finals.
Yeah, head-to-head grand finals. If you need him in a pinch, he is not going to be there. If you've got him, I think he's a hold. I think that you can play him most weeks, plug and play, especially for a guy that you probably paid 300 or 400K for. That's fine. But yeah, just he's not worth bringing in if that's your option. The topic of this was who to replace Payne Haas. Don't buy Finu.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And Josh Curran is 7 based on your blind rankings.
Honestly, it's just injury dependent. And I've got basketball tonight, so this blind ranking could have been something completely different on another night, can I mention?
Yes. For anybody who watches the show regularly, it would have been a different blind ranking, that's for sure. Maybe we'll come back to that on Sunday.
Yeah. What do you think? Is there anything you'd change there?
No, I don't think so. Not really. I mean, look, Willison, I'm not as high on Willison as you are. I think he's a fine play due to the fact that he's 370K. And, I feel like the value of the dual position might be a little bit more valuable for me than you value it. Like when I'm looking at Josh Curran, and the AC joint injury is a concern for me. But I mean, I'm not overly concerned. He does play every game. For me, he did have a bit of a downer game on the weekend, and that we've seen players with AC joint injuries have a little bit of a decrease in performance. So that there is a little concern there, but I still think he outscores Willison. I still think he probably averages 55 for the run home. And also he's kind of the only guy the Dogs have. Like Max King's out. I mean, who are you going to use at prop? Farmasilli, who's played fuck all football, like fuck all first grade all year. Like Sam Hughes going to become the front row, your main prop for the year in his debut season? Probably not.
Yeah. Counter argument to you. I agree. I just think he's a terrible buy at 570K. And you're saying Josh Curran's going to average 55 when Xavier Willison's going to average 49.3 and he's 387K. That's 189K.
Yep. What are you doing with that cash? How many trades do you have left?
So I have 2 trades left. If somebody gets injured, if I have to move out Asako, I can get whoever the fuck I want. If I have to trade out Asako, I can get the most expensive center wing in the game at the moment. If Turbo gets a 1 and drops 200k, I still have the money to go to somebody else. Like, I'm just banking that cash because right now I'm in a position when Payne Haas lost a lot of money and I can't get in AFB. I miss out on it by $8,000. This is insurance for me. And I think that 5 points per game that I'm getting in front row forward that I'm going to be missing out on, I think that I will make up those 5 points. I think if I do it in the last week, I will make more than 20 points out of that.
Yeah, look, fair enough argument. Having that cash in the bank will be handy. I think especially because we know that we're going to get hit with injuries. We know that we're going to get hit with restings in round 27. So at least if money's not an issue back then, like, you can pick basically whoever you need to get to. I'm glad you put Barnett at 1 because I actually think I'm going to bring Barnett in this week. I have the cash to do it now, but that goes against what you've just talked about in having cash in the bank because I'm basically going to spend it all to get Barnett. So Haas to Barnett's going to cost me 200k. It leaves me with like 30k in the bank left with 2 trades.
Yeah. Do you want to know something beautiful though? I'm also saying I don't have enough money to get AFB. So I've been backed into a corner and maybe I'm just trying to tell myself that everything's all okay as I look around and the place is on fire. But yeah, look, I think if I had the money sitting there, I probably would. You're right. Like, why not just get the better player there? I just think like the 5 points difference you're going to get between X and Cotter and Curran is not there. But I think, Mitch Barnett could get 35 points more than Willison every game this year.
Yeah. I think Barnett will outscore AFB on the run home. I'm pretty confident that Barnett's the high. Out of the 7 players we just mentioned, Barnett averages the most on the run home. And obviously he does have around 27 bye, which creates a little bit of concern. But AFB also has around 27 bye. I've seen plenty of teams with both of them. So I feel like Barnett being 12% owned in the top 1% of teams is also a really nice little pod for me to see if I can make some ground up on these guys and get in the top 1K. That's kind of the way I'm thinking at the moment. So that's the way I'll lean. But AFB, Tarpany and Barnett, they're your 3. I don't think if you have 2 of those 3, you're set for the run home, I think. If you have AFB and Barnett, I'd be a little bit worried about round 27. But again, they're probably 2 of the 3 best options, so you can't complain too much.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what do you get? An AE? Surely a lot of your Deadwood's gone, or you know what? You've made your bed lying it by now. So,
yeah, spot on. Mate, let's move on to the ladder deep dive because we're looking at teams to target for the run home, but we're also looking at teams that are going to be a resting risk and teams that we probably should avoid if they don't have anything to play for, or, at the end of the day, we're not going to be picking many Tigers or any Tigers players for the run home. We can come back to this very quickly before we talk about the ladder. Ange wants to know, what about Terrell May? I think if you have Terrell May, you just keep him now. Unless you really desperately need a number this week, he's my first rooster to go if you needed a number. But now that we see Lindsay Collins out with the HIA, that he's blessed that the Roosters have the bye this week. So Terrell May isn't going to get to benefit off the back of Collins' HIA.
Jared Warrior-Hargraves, he might miss 1 more, perhaps. Because it's a suspension, not an injury. So the week doesn't count.
No, that's right. And then, you've got Terrell May sitting there as your front row forward 1 or 2 that potentially has 1 decent week in round 24. And then in round 25, he's back doing fuck all 35 minutes, scoring you 39 points. That's my concern. So I didn't put May in this group because I don't think you'd be buying him if you didn't have him. But if you do have him, I don't think you need to sell at this point in time. So ladder deep dive, mate. What are we looking at in terms of teams to target at the moment? Are there any teams that are screaming out at you that are relatively safe, not a huge resting risk, but have plenty to play for the run home?
Yeah, so I'm more looking at teams on 28 competition points and under. And then I draw the line at like those Warriors and Broncos, which has plenty of teams. But I'd stay away from... It's hard because bringing in Storm and Panthers are always good, but they are going to get rested. You've heard it here first. There will be resting when it comes to Storm and Panthers. Probably Roosters and Sharks as well. It'd be really hard for a team like the Dolphins to knock out one of those blokes. So let's just go there. I'm not saying the Dolphins for any other reason. I'm usually saying them for my own personal agenda against them. But I'm just saying them because they're on 24 points. So when you go to the Doggies, the Cowboys, the Sea Eagles, and the Dragons, they're in the top 8, but they could get knocked out. I don't see them resting players. There's some tough matchups. I know the Cowboys have a really rough draw. They'll be looking in the rearview mirror at some of these teams like the Dolphins, like the Raiders, and there's some form teams in there like the Titans. They just keep winning games, which are they're 4 points out of the 8, and the Knights are 4 points out of the 8 as well. Again, the Knights still just won't rest anyone, I don't think. They're a small market team. They need to put their players on the paddock and, get memberships for the following year. Knights, Titans, Raiders, Dolphins, Dragons, Sea Eagles, Cowboys, and Doggies won't rest anyone. The Warriors, Broncos, Rabbitohs, and the Eels have absolutely fucking nothing to play for. They stub their toe at the dinner table on a Monday night. They're getting sat.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I agree with everything you said. And we didn't even mention the Tigers because there is zero relevance to the Tigers for the run home. Around 26 head-to-head grand final is awful to have a buy-in. And if you get stuck with Fainu, you've got Appy Coruscant, you've got Lockie Galvin, there's 3 guys in your head-to-head final you'd probably play in your 17 or in your best 20 every single week. So then you get hit with, in your head-to-head grand final, you get hit with a couple of injuries, a couple of random restings. We need to remember also that the Melbourne Storm have come out and said, so Brandon Smith spoke about this on the Buy Round podcast with James Graham, saying that he spoke with Harry Grant and Bellamy has basically said to the Storm Origin group that they're going to be rested in round 26. So there's your head-to-head grand final. You lose Harry Grant, you lose Jerome Hughes, you lose maybe Munster. I don't know what they're doing with him. And then you lose Ali Katoa because he's been injured as well. I don't know whether they'll risk him. So very, very interesting to look at because we could be decimated in round 26, head-to-head grand finals, money on the line, and we could be playing with less than 17 players. So that's something to be wary of with the Tigers. Definitely wouldn't be buying any of them now because they're also shit. Storm players beware. Probably. I mean, you bought Munster. So do you think Munster plays?
Look, can I tell you something that supersedes resting, that supersedes winning, that supersedes all these things, and it's vibes. And that's what I needed in my team last week. Look, Cody Walker was out. It was 1 to 3 weeks. Look, I made the call. It was wrong because Cody Walker's playing this week, but I've now got Cam Munster, and Cam Munster's going to outscore Cody Walker. Had it been this week, I don't think I would have brought in. I wouldn't be buying Munster this week unless I had more than 5 trades. 4 trades? 5 trades.
Yeah. Agreed. Penrith Panthers probably likely to rest their guys in round 27, which would hurt. Mm-hmm. And sorry, can I come back to the Storm and why they're resting in round 26? They have to travel to Townsville in round 26, and then their game in round 27 is in Brisbane. So they're probably just trying to limit the amount of time on the road that a lot of these guys have coming into the finals, which makes complete sense. Panthers, I'm worried about as Yeo. I'm worried about those kind of guys that played and have had a big Origin series. The funny thing is I don't actually think Nathan Cleary rests in 27. I have a feeling they're going to just want him to play some footy. He's just missed a lot of footy this year. He didn't play Origin, so his workload wasn't up through that period. He's starting to play some really good football, so I think that there's every chance he plays in the final round. And then, Roosters and Sharks. Ange in the chat reckons they won't rest Sharks either, but you make a good point that they just don't have anybody good to rest anyway. So it doesn't really matter.
And I don't think they're going to, who's their best player still playing at the moment? Nikora? I don't think you're going to rest somebody like that either.
Yeah, for sure. Roosters, the only saving grace for me potentially would be that Roosters, because they've got the bye this week, do you need to rest them again in 27 or 26? It doesn't make sense for them to have a rest now and then have another rest in 3 weeks. That's the only saving grace for me.
So I don't see him resting your Joey Manus. He's just had a few weeks off, albeit because of injury. I don't see him resting Dom Young because he just stands there like this big lanky giraffe on the wing, and every time he touches the ball, scores 46 super coach points. At that average of 72, he only touches the ball twice. But it's probably some blokes like Angus Crichton I could see resting. Sam Walker's still a little bit young. Connor Watson did play Origin, albeit it was for 20 minutes at a time. But I do wonder whether like Lindsay Collins gets resting if you're looking for a little bit of a pod and you picked up him early at 400k or something like that. Like it's blokes like that are playing Origin that I think will get rested, and maybe Tedesco. He's just a little bit older.
Yeah, fair point. I think Gus Crichton, I don't know how he hasn't had a rest. But yeah, I feel like if he hasn't had a rest through this Origin period, playing 80 minutes in Origin and then backing up and playing 80 minutes for the Roosters, this rest will be enough for him. He's probably been hanging out for this round 23 bye, and then he'll push on. So hopefully that gives everybody a bit of insight into the way we're thinking around these head-to-heads as well as these, buys. The Cowboys have the buy in round 25, which deters me from buying really any of those as well, which is why I'm not as high on Ruben Cotter. Val Holmes as well. If I didn't get Val last week, I'm definitely not buying him this week. And he's a guy that will come up in conversation later because he's very well purchased this year. So, this week. So very interesting play from a lot of people that I don't think I'd be getting on Val now. I feel like it's chasing last week's points, but we'll touch on that very soon, mate. And the last topic I want to talk about is fullback rankings for the run home. There are 3 guys that I feel should probably be in your team. You should have 2 of them. It's just about which one do you fade. So what are your thoughts on this? Like, you've got James Tedesco, we've got Tom Trbojevic, we've got Kalen Ponga. Based on draws, based on schedule, based on averages, based on just play in general, do you agree with me that these 3 are the guys that you should have 2 of?
Yeah. I think Manly and the Knights fall into that not getting rested, not having buys. Now, they've played actually most of their tough matchups now. So Manly and the Knights have a golden draw. I actually think the Jacko Hastings, and he's out again this week, correct? Yes. I actually think Jackson Hastings being out is a lot better than you think for Kalen Ponga.
Yeah, I completely agree. We did the numbers last week and looked at Kalen Ponga's average without Hastings. There wasn't a huge difference, but he still averaged 101 points without Hastings. So it's a small sample size. It's only 4 games, but we're just looking at the state of play and just looking at the fact that Hastings used to love hitting Kai Pearce-Paul on the short ball, whereas, the ball should be going out the back to Ponga. That's, the play that's been so successful to them, and they haven't used it that much this year. Obviously, Ponga hasn't played as much footy either, but I feel like he's going to get more sweeping ball, more ball down that left edge, and Marju might come back to life as well through that. So that's probably the way I'm thinking with them. If let's say, for instance, you had anybody else other than either Teddy or Turbo, your combo wasn't Teddy and Turbo at the moment. If you do have Teddy and Turbo, unless like we spoke about at the start of the show, you wanted a bit of a leg up on your head-to-head and it was a must-win match for you, you could probably go to Ponga. But I'd probably sit on Teddy and Turbo if you have them. If you have any other combination, would you buy Ponga over getting Teddy or Turbo this week?
Yeah, this week I would buy Ponga over Teddy. That extra game, that fear of resting, I think Ponga is the guy that I would get this week. I have Teddy. I'm going to sit on him. Teddy's been probably the best player in Supercoach this year. So, yeah, I think that I'm going to be holding him. But he's somebody I'm scared of not owning. So,
yeah. Ange in the chat mentions if you're chasing rank, then Teddy to Ponga could be worth the trade. The only thing that concerns me is that if you have minimal trades left, you're using what we probably consider to be a sideways trade when you're going to need those trades later. Like, you're going to need 2 trades if you can in round 27. It's going to be brutal. You're going to need them for round 26 head-to-head finals if Storm rest all their players like they said to, and you've got a couple of Tigers. Like, it just feels like making a sideways trade like that at the back end of the year just really isn't the move. But that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, sounds like a luxury trade. And if you're the 1 or 2 rank in your league, and you're not going to get knocked out this week, I would probably save the trade and just bank them for another one.
Yep.
I have another question for you.
Yep.
And it's more about those B tier fullbacks for me. If you have Scott Drinkwater or Reece Walsh, I think outside of that, you're not really playing anybody else at fullback anyway, with the way that Dylan Edwards hasn't played for 3 weeks. If you've got Reece Walsh or Scotty Drinkwater and 3 trades left, what do you do? Gun to your head.
So are you asking me would I trade either of those guys out to get one of these 3 guns in?
Yes, this week.
If I had Reece Walsh, I feel like with Payne Haas going down, they're going to have a lot less go forward. I don't know whether the field position and just the way the Broncos have been playing lately, I don't know whether there's too much confidence in them. And Walsh can do it himself. So it's not a big issue. I don't know whether it's a must trade. I wouldn't say you have to get rid of Walsh or you have to get rid of Drinky. But if I had to choose one to get rid of, I'd get rid of Walsh. Purely because I think Drinky, looking at Drinkwater's stats this year, have been elite. Like, he's 706K. He's got a 4 break even as well, which doesn't really matter at this time of the year, but he's still cheap. And whilst he does play the Broncos, he's got Canberra as well coming up, Melbourne Bulldogs, but he's going to play Melbourne up in Townsville when all of their players are rested. So that's not a tough matchup. Round 27 against the Bulldogs will probably be a challenge. But, the Raiders, they're playing at Townsville. They've got their next 3 games at Townsville. So Drinky's pretty much shown that he's been relatively matchup proof this year. He scored 89 against the Sharks, who are a top 4 defensive, Supercoach defensive team this year based on the stats. He scored 101 against the Roosters. So, I'm looking at some of these tough matchups, and he's scoring well against the 77 against the Broncos in round 4. I feel like Drinky's the play. I would hold Drinky and trade Walsh based on your question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Do you agree?
I think if I had those blokes, even moving to Ponga might feel like a luxury trade.
Yeah.
I think, this week probably. I mean, Newcastle have the best matchup in the world. I suppose it depends if I needed to win my head-to-head this week, because I'd probably put the captain on Ponga if I had him.
I mean, he's got the goal kicking now. That helps. Against the Tigers' worst defense in the comp, Ponga and Marju could do some very bad things to the Tigers this weekend at home at the Dolphins Stadium as well. So everything is against the Tigers there. So if you can get Ponga in this week and you don't have to feel like a luxury or a sideways trade, I'd be prioritizing trading in Kalen Ponga. Hopefully that gives you guys a bit of a hand. The situation
didn't help you at all.
It doesn't help me because I've got Turbo and Teddy, and there's no way I'm wasting one of my last 2 trades doing that. But maybe round 27 from last year's etched in my memory as just being chaos. So I want to make sure I try and hold those trades, but also want to keep them in case I need them for round 26 head-to-heads or 25. If I'm going to get knocked out of a couple of head-to-head finals, I use a trade there. Now, guys, let's move into the squeeze of the week. And the squeeze of the week is, of course, always brought to you by the Standard Squeeze, helping you drink responsibly and conveniently. The Standard Squeeze products are made from food-grade quality plastic as well. You get your little 4-in-1s here that keep your drinks nice and cold, keep your coffees nice and warm, and also their combo packs as well that we give away to the top scorer. You can see it in Mattrix is just above his head there. Little combo pack holds all of your alcohol in it and measures the perfect pour in a little 30 ml chamber. So if you want to check and know how much you've had if you're driving, perfect little thing to chuck in the back pocket as well because they come in different sizes. So go to thestandardsqueeze.com, use the code IFS15, get yourself 15% off. Top scorer for round 22 of the Unlimited League goes out to Damien, coach of Dewey Panic Now, with a 1477. Very big score from Damien. Congrats, mate. Hop in our inbox and we'll get your prize out to you, mate. Congrats. And Nick, coach of the West Tigers. Ironic, isn't it, that Nick is leading the overall league, clearly as a West Tigers supporter, when the Tigers haven't led a league since 2005.
You deserve it, man.
He does. We've got Rowan in second, coach of the Cotton Pickers as well. He's 13th overall. So a couple of guys in the hunt here to take out the overall. So good luck to those guys. What do you think in Bundy Mixer, mate? Very, very quickly before we move on to our pods and trade trends.
I actually can't find Cam McInnes in the game, so that's good.
That's looking at him.
He's a hooker in Bundy Mixer.
That's fair enough. That kind of makes sense.
He's hooker only, so that's shit. Because I wanted to
Sucks.
play him in the middle or the edge, being named at hooker this week. But you know what makes sense? He was named at hooker. I was adjusting my team in the background when it come up to that. But I am captaining Kalen Ponga at the back at fullback. I'm going to play Izzy Kelly. I am going to not go away from Nathan Cleary. I am going to go Lauren Brown. I'm going to go Hale for the third week in the row in the middle, Georgia Hale. And I've got to pick a pod edge player. I actually had Eli Katoa earmarked for this game. So I'm just going to probably go a Hudson Young or a Jeremiah Nanai or somebody like that, just chasing some points, really. Gus isn't an option this week, and everybody picks David Fafita, so I'll go someone else.
Yeah, that's fair. Lauren Brown at hooker is this maybe, I wouldn't say the smartest option, but safe as a house. And you can get a halfback that gets all the in-play kicking meters, which scores well in fantasy, and you can get them at hooker. It's a decent option. I'm on Taufa from the Raiders, who has just been an animal the first two games of the season. So I'm picking her from the Raiders. I'm on Keon at 2RF or edge. So I think Keon just playing kind of 60, 70 minutes through the middle of the field, and you can play him at edges, is pretty handy because base stat scorers like Keon and those middle forwards are really, scored quite well. I'm on Nathan Cleary, obvious reasons. Jess Surges is pretty hard to look past as well at centre wing. And then just like you mentioned, Kalen Ponga at wing fullback. I've got to toss up whether I'm going to boost Ponga or Cleary this week. I'm very tempted to boost Ponga. So it's maybe makes me feel better when the Tigers get thrashed every week if I bet against them every week, because then I win something.
That was my logic of playing Nano at edge.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, you've got to get a win somewhere if your team gets fucking rattled. So, that's Bundy Mixer. It's not too late to jump into the league as well, guys, if you haven't yet and you want to make a team and just get involved. The team, it's wiped clean every single week. There's no salary cap. You pick 3 women and 3 men. You fill the 6 positions on the field, 1 player each, and jump into the league that we've created, and you can win yourself a standard squeeze pack if you are the winner of that. So get involved, and it's a great way to support the NRLW as well, which is getting a lot more support this year, and a lot more eyeballs on it, which is awesome.
I tell you what, I watched the Titans game. It was against the Tigers, and Titans are my pick to win the comp. I know it's, all the chat's always about the Roosters with their big names and everything like that. But yeah, for me, it's the Titans this year.
Yeah, right. Like it. Don't mind that at all. Mate, before we talk about trade trends, because we can lead into captains and wrap things up from there, let's talk about our pods that we're looking at for this week.
I'm watching you, Wazowski. Always watching.
Now, the consensus pod of the week last week was Josh Addo-Carr, just on vibes. Josh and I are pretty high. You weren't. He scored 67, I think, or 60 in the end, which is fine. We won't mention it was 2 tries. All right. We don't need to get negative about this on the show. But 2 tries from the pod of the week, we'll take it. My pods so far have been Jack Whiten, who has scored relatively well. Sania Taruva last week was my one. He didn't exactly score that well. This week I'm looking at Dane Gagai, mate. I'm looking at Dane Gagai against the Tigers, who could go nuclear this week. Base stat-wise is pretty solid. He's only, I think, 2% owned in the top 1% of teams. So definitely classifies as a pod. 110 break even. I'm ignoring that at the moment. I'm not overly worried. He's got a 77 3-round average. 38 in base is elite at centre wing. He's never going to really hurt you either. And there's massive attacking upside for him, I think. Aside from when he's goal kicking, he scored like three tries in the first half of the year, and then he scored a double against the Raiders, but he hasn't had many attacking stats. So I feel like we talk about Ponga's run home all the time and how good the Knights run home is. I mean, Gagai's on the same team. So I feel like he could probably benefit from this nice little soft run home too. So if you're looking for a real left field pod, like maybe a replacement for Dom Young, if you've got heaps of trades up your sleeve and you want to take a punt on that, I don't mind Dane Gagai.
Yeah, right. I mean, I don't hate it. I've been running him. I find it really hard to add centers when I play NRL fantasy due to the fact that I basically just pick almost exclusively wingers because they score the big points in Supercoach. So, yeah, look, Dane Gagai's been good. His base stats are actually, like, I know that we don't look at Dane Gagai very regularly, had a fantastic year, touched 830K last year. But honestly, man, yeah, Dane Gagai, fantastic one.
Cool. Who's yours, mate? Who are you looking at? Because you've gone, was it Murray and then into Fogarty the last couple of weeks for your pods of the week?
Yeah, and they've both, I think Murray's averaged 55 the last 3 weeks. Fogarty has, I think he got a 70 odd and then a 50 in the last couple weeks.
You got 100.
I can't remember.
2 weeks ago, he got 100.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, he got 100. Yeah. I'm trying to remember who I said was a really good pod on the phone to you today. I thought
you've already talked about him, mate. You're going to buy him in your front row this week.
Oh, yeah, Xavier Willison. Yeah, sorry. I mean, he's stepping into Payne Haas's role. He averages 50. I think actually that's why I forgot it. I think I was like chasing points for the point of the game. And realistically, I think that he's going to just keep pumping out 50s. I think he's just going to score 50 every week. But realistically, he only costs you 387K. You can bank some money, spend it elsewhere. Yeah, X isn't very well owned. He was at the start of the year. Everybody's moved on from him because he's leaked a lot of cash since Payne Haas has been playing every game. But yeah, took a real deep dive. I think it was just after the Broncos game. Honestly, because I needed to find some shining light in my Broncos after that loss. So yeah, X scores well when Haas isn't there. Just get him.
Like it. Shout out. Thanks, Amo. I actually do look a little bit like Mr. Potato Head, so I'll pay that. That's fine. Yeah, so Josh hasn't given us a pod this week, but we'll chase him up and we'll get him to post it in the Discord before the week starts. Now, let's have a chat about trade trends, mate, because there are a few trades that we agree with and maybe some that we don't.
Targets acquired.
Now, we're going to filter based on the top 10% of teams, so I'll do that right now. Just looking at the most traded in, so we'll probably cover the most traded in, maybe 5 to 10 players each way. Kalen Ponga, 14.4% of the top 10% of teams are buying Kalen Ponga. I can't talk anyone out of that. Joseph Tarpany at 12%. He's the second most purchased. Also can't talk anyone out of that. That's fine. But I can talk you out of Valentine Holmes at 5%. He's the third most purchased in the top 10% of teams. I mean, I kind of made a case for Drinky, but I just don't know whether I like Val as a buy now. What are your thoughts on this? Because I spoke about Drinky a little bit. Do you think maybe it's a little bit of a week too late? Are we chasing last week's points?
Yeah, you are. And I'm talking as a non-Val owner. And when I traded out Val, I looked ahead at the schedule, who they're playing against. I, of course, thought of the Broncos as a hard matchup. I know that they're playing them this week. It's probably turned into a good matchup in the last couple of weeks. But it was the West Tigers matchup that I was scared not to own him. Look, I'm not surprised that he scored really well last week. I knew that. But the week after, they're playing Canberra. The week after that, they are playing, me have a look. They have the bye, so they're not playing anyone.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So hate that. And then the Cowboys are playing the Storm in round 26. That's probably turned into a little bit better matchup than we expected. And the Cowboys are playing the Doggies in the last week, and the Doggies will be probably playing their last home game of the year. We know how Belmore turns up after a big game. There's just not that many good matchups. He seems to be on the out. I actually haven't seen him get that much good ball. Like, for his average, Val, this year, he's been scoring like 138 or 40. He hasn't had, to me, a good game as somebody that watches a good year as somebody that watches it. It's not like, a Carraz or a Garrick or one of those blokes that just seem to score well every week. I'm just not excited by Val. I just don't get it.
And I agree with you. From an eye test, I'm an owner, and from an eye test perspective, he's a very frustrating player because he hasn't really got himself involved in some of these games. But when you go back and look at his numbers, man, he scored 500s this year, right? And then he didn't have a score under 50 until round 11. And then he's had 340 scores all year. His lowest score of the year is 44. So that's the absolute floor from him, which is fine. But it's weird because it does. You look at his numbers and you think, well, he actually hasn't really been that bad. But maybe do we have too much of a high expectation on Val? Because I just think I'm always wary about buying someone off the back of a game against the Tigers because there's always this expectation they're going to continue to score 80 to 120 each week. And I don't think that happens on the run home for Val. But I just think there's better options. I'd actually probably rather buy Zach Lomax, who's the 4th most purchased player, over Val Holmes.
I agree with you. I would buy Zach Lomax. Zach Lomax seems to be a little bit more matchup proof as well. It doesn't matter what's happening at the Dragons. Zach Lomax will be kicked too. He will get some attacking stats. He is... Oh, look. I'm used to offending Dragons players, so this will probably work. Zach Lomax is their best fucking player. And so regardless of what's going on there, whether he's on the out, Lomax just gives 110%. I think, what's he average? 70 for the year? Zach Lomax outscores, especially with the fact that Val has a bye and Zach Lomax doesn't.
77 his averages for the year.
And
he's 16.9% owned in the top percent of teams. Val Holmes is 60. So if you want to anti-pod Val Holmes and go with Zach Lomax, I reckon I'd be all for that. I think I'd rather that, to be honest. Just with the draw frame out for the Dragons as well.
Yeah. Oh, no, I think the draw's still a bit tough for the Dragons, isn't it?
So they've got 2 hard games. So what we consider hard games against like top 4 defensive teams in the NRL. But then they've got 3 easy games against bottom 6 conceding teams. So it's a very mixed draw. This week is not the week to really get on. And I don't think you need to rush to get on Lomax this week, considering he's playing against the Bulldogs, who are like, I think they're the 2nd best defense against centre wings this year. So 87 break even, I don't think he covers that this week. So if you can wait, I'd probably get on him. And I think I know why people are rushing to get Val, because if you don't get him this week, next week, you'll probably be like 730, 740K as a minimum. So that's probably why people are going that way.
Go. Just let Val... look, he'll probably average 100 for the rest of the year, now that I am absolutely going to sit here and say that you just need to let Val go. He's going to average 100 for the rest of the year. But he's got a bye. He plays one less game. Just get Zach in. Fuck.
Yeah, I get it. Cam Munster, mate, he's 5th most purchased. 535K for Cam Munster. How fucking insane is that? Like, to think at the start of the year you could get Cam Munster for nearly 500K. You've got to take that.
Yeah, you could make, 78K by going Lachlan Galvin to Cam Munster.
You could also, if you're a Trindle owner, you could do Trindle via Jules. I'm sure you've got Jules there, halfback 5'8" Jules somewhere. You could make 150K going Trindle to Cam Munster.
I mean, I own Cam Munster, so I can't really complain against it, but I don't think I would be getting him now with the looming rest. I do think maybe he's a chance of not resting, just wanting to get some legs under him.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully, for your sake, I think it'd be good if you didn't. But there's every chance. Who knows? Now 6 is Turbo. Agree. 7 is Harry Grant. I mean, it's probably, we're again looking at chasing last week's points. Just be ready for that rest in round 26 head-to-head finals. I'd probably avoid Harry. I mean, Harry Grant's been good and he's starting to find his legs now on the run home. I'm really hoping he repays me with some scores that I deserve from him, because the amount of 40s I copped from Harry Grant this year has been putrid. So I'm hoping he comes good. I don't feel 100% about bringing him in now, though, if I didn't have him.
You know what? If you're sitting there with Appy and Harry, they're both not going to play in the same week. The 2 best hookers at the moment. I know Cook's a bit of a funny one because he sort of was on his way out at the start of the year and has finished the year strong. But, mate, if you've got Appy and Harry, just rethink about it.
Yeah, good point. Good call. I actually didn't even consider that at all, because I reckon there's a few people that have that combo.
Yes.
Harry Grant, 7th most bought. Mitch Barnett, 8th most bought. I'm buying him this week, so I can't talk anyone out of that. I think that's fine if you have the coin. Scott Drinkwater 9 and Hamali Olakauatu is 10. Look, all of those are good purchases. I don't know whether I'd buy Drinky now, but if I had him, I don't think I'd trade him. That's probably the best way to summarize him.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of the same. Although going Drinky to Ponga still feels great, I think. If you've got the trades.
I think if I had 4 or more trades, I'd probably pull the trigger on that move.
Yeah.
Because Ponga can literally go 120. He can average 120 for the run home in the next 5 weeks and win you your head-to-head comp just off the back of captain and him in a couple of nice matchups.
And you said it again, goal kicking. The Knights don't have trouble scoring when Ponga plays.
Yeah, spot on. Let's talk trade outs, mate. Payne Haas, obvious, right? If his season's over, if you missed the start of the show, you can move him on comfortably now, unfortunately, for the Broncos and for my Supercoach team, who I bought Haas last week. So that was terrible.
2 weeks ago.
Dom Young, 8.4% are trading out Dom Young this week. I don't know whether I would unless I was playing short without him this week. I think he's a hold because there's every chance he could be back around 24 or even 25. It's not the end of the world. I mean, when we look at the Roosters draw as well, I think we're forgetting just how good this Roosters draw is. You know, they've got the Eels in round 24 after the bye. Do you really want to not have Dom Young against the team that concedes the most tries to right wingers in the competition?
I know you're explaining that with logic, but do you not want to own Dom Young against the fucking Para Eels?
It's insane. Like, he could score 170 against the Eels just the way that they've been this year. And just looking at statistics as well to back that up, like everything is saying Dom Young 100 plus in round 24 if he's back. That's
5 Dom Young touches for that 170.
Yeah, he could put it up in the first 27 minutes as well.
Mattrix.
And then the Gold Coast Titans the week after. So let's just say, for instance, he does miss the Eels. You still want to own him for the Titans, you know, and then they play the Raiders into Souths. And Souths also concede the second most tries to right wingers in the competition. So Dom Young's coming into some very, very healthy matchups for the run home. I also don't think he rests.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know. Like, you know what? Like, Rowan's in the chat saying that they won't rush him back since it's the same hamstring, surely. I think that's a non-owner or somebody that's trading him out trying to talk themselves into the trade. I think logic says that they said that he's targeting a return round 24. He could just play. Yeah, locked in. Curse. The Braino curse is on. Young confirmed for minus 15. You know what? I'll laugh if it happens. It would be the story of my season. To be fair, though, I'm fucking 1600th overall. So, like, ease up on your Braino curse bullshit because I'm doing all right. And I have to, because I'm on a podcast, I have to talk about every player. I'm going to get a few wrong. Sorry about that. Did you bring Payne Haas in last week?
Yep.
So just talking about the
Mitch Barnett this week. I'm bringing Mitch Barnett in for everybody who isn't in the Discord. So, yeah, maybe avoid him this week so he stays a pod, but locked in injury. James Tedesco, same kind of argument, I guess, as Dom Young. I don't know whether I'd want to do James Tedesco to Ponga, but I understand why people are doing it. I just feel like we're getting a bit trigger happy with these trades at the back end of the season when we're really going to need them. I would need 5 to. I'll probably need 6+ trades to consider that move.
Yep.
Okay. Mulatalo's being traded out. He's fine. He'll still be out for another 3 weeks, so that's completely fine. Ryan Pappenhausen's an interesting one, mate. 3.3% are trading him out. He's the 5th most traded out player. Plays against Souths this week, though. Not a bad matchup.
Yeah, I wouldn't be trading him against... This is a rage trade if I've ever seen one. There is nothing... Like, Pappy's just doing Pappy things. He scores 11 sometimes and doesn't get that involved. But against Souths, this could be anything.
It's 90K to go from Pappy to Ponga this week.
Maybe that's it. Yeah, I'd just move heaven and earth to get Ponga, really. But if you're sitting there with 3 trades, then just play Pappy. Yeah, the trades are the issue. You got trades up your sleeve, pull the trigger fucking so quick, it's not funny. You know, that should have been the first trade that you make when lockout opens up is Pappy to Ponga for that coin against the Tigers. If Ponga was playing another team, yeah, you could probably, watch on for a little bit, but the fact he's playing the Tigers, it could be anything this week. So, yeah, I don't mind that. Eli Katoa, people are trading out him. I don't know whether I would trade out Eli Katoa just off the back of the fact he hasn't been named, I'm assuming. I'd probably reverse that because there is every chance he could be back next week. But just making a trade before we find out some detailed news about a return time is always just bad news.
So I'd urge people maybe to at least wait and make a decision on Thursday, but just plan on holding him for a week and reassessing next week because it's just a trade you don't need to make if he's back next round.
Yep. Agree. Just
Cody Walker
follow
the
the
same?
socials, get on Twitter. Yeah.
Cody Walker the same, you reckon? He's back this week. I'm assuming people thought he might have been out.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. I think he's a hold. I know it's not a great matchup for him, so.
Yeah, that's right. Jai Gray's 8th most traded out. I think maybe people are trying to capitalise on his cash maybe at 5'8". Yeah. Jai Gray to Munster cost you 50K, 60K.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's probably the way I'd play it. Terrell May also being traded out on the bye this week. I can get around it. I don't hate it. I think that there were some questions in the chat around like my front row forward is Fainu, AFB and Willison and Curran. You know, like if I had those kind of guys, I don't know whether I'd need Terrell May. I feel like I'd probably then just try and nuff him out or cash him out to someone else or use him through duels or something. So I can get around the Terrell May and Jaden Campbell as well as being traded out, which he's playing the Sharks this week. Not a great matchup. If you've got Jaden Campbell, you could do Jaden Campbell to Cam Munster at 5'8", or Jaden Campbell to Ponga and make money from both of those trades, like good money.
Yep.
So
cool.
I would do those. So that's our thoughts on the most bought and sold players this week. And before we do questions, let's quickly jump in and talk about captains.
Are you ready, kids?
Aye, Captain!
I know you've got to run, mate, soon. Quick thoughts on captaincy before questions.
Look, Ponga, we've said it a bazillion times. I love it. I don't think I have the knackers to captain Marju. Cleary against the Eels is just as good of a matchup, though, than Ponga. It's more if you want to make up some ranks and that, you could probably go Ponga instead of Cleary, but you can still VC Cleary into Ponga, correct?
Yep. Sure can.
So that's probably the play. I know where I'm at with, what do I have? 2 Nuffs and 4 Roosters, that it wouldn't be the end of the world if I did have to loop as well. But yeah, realistically, I'm probably vice captaining Turbo into Cleary because I don't own Ponga.
I might VC Harry Grant into Captain Cleary. I think Cleary is either a vice captain or a captain for you against the Eels this week. You know, we spoke in depth about the Eels and how many Supercoach points they concede. So I think you can't go without Cleary and you can't go without having an armband of some sort on him. But your options around that are pretty open. If you have Ponga, definitely Cleary VC into Ponga captain will be probably the most popular move this week. A lot of teams might even be playing close to short and not even be stuck with an AE. If you get a free VC loop on Nathan Cleary into Ponga, you do that every day of the week. Even Cleary into Marju, I don't mind, to be honest, which would also be tempting for my side because I think that I'm either going to do VC Grant into C Cleary or VC Cleary into C Marju this week.
Can I just fix mine because I've got 1,000 windows open and I actually had the round 25 draw up when I said that I would VC Turbo. Turbo's playing after Cleary for those at home. Nobody picked that up, so you're all nuffies. I'm probably going to go Cam Munster into Cleary. I don't think there's any point me going for feeder considering I see sort of ceiling at 110 and I still don't think I'm taking it. Like, yeah, you know what? If he absolutely rips the shorthanded Souths to shreds and scores 140, then I'll loop it. But I don't think Fafita's ever going to score 140. I dare him to. I hope he does. But yeah, I just don't think that. So I'm going to chase the upside. I'd probably nearly even go a Kale Hero over a Fafita. But yeah, it's Cam Munster for me.
Yep, agreed. The one thing on Fafita, Sharks actually rank first against 2RFs this year. They concede the least points to second row forwards in 2024. So not the matchup to target for Fafita.
I'm out.
Have fun. Good luck. What's
Cheerio.
the stat one? 12.
Oh, we're actually playing one of the tops teams. I think last week I had like a 6, 5, and 6 sort of game. I'm feeling that. Just and actually the assists were elite considering we score about 35 points a game. But yeah, maybe like a 6, 5, and 4 or something like that I'd be pretty happy with.
Yeah, good luck. Bit of Draymond Green about that, Mr. Triple Single. Get it done.
Yeah, that's me. Love some singles. I just love winning. and getting in the head of their best player. We'll probably play a box and one, and I will be the mosquito.
Good luck. Have fun.
Cheerio.
Now, guys, we'll carry on and we'll wrap this one up with answering all of your questions. I'll do my best to cover all of these because there are some good questions in the chat. I apologize if I have missed some, but I will do my best. And shout out to Jerome Luai, who's going to help me with these questions. I don't know whether he's got much to say. He's just been randomly standing there looking at everyone all night, which is fine. But first question here from FC Sports. What do I do with Haas since I already have AFB, Tarpany and Fainu? If you've got AFB, Tarpany, Fainu and Haas in your front row forward, you have way too much cash there and you've got to spread that cash out. I'm not quite sure how many trades you have left. So a lot of these questions, I'm going to go off the fact that you have enough trades left to make these moves. What should you do with Haas? I would probably, if you have the ability to use Jules to buy an Elite 2RF, I'd probably do that because AFB and Tarpany are a perfectly serviceable front row forward 1 and 2. So absolutely no issue there. And Fino, even as a front row forward 2, is manageable. As a front row forward 3, he's perfect cover. So you don't need to load up that heavy. So yeah, Haas to a 2RF if you can make the Jules work, or maybe Haas down to a Willison to free up some cash. Just so you've got a playable option there in round 27 as well. The last thing you want to do is nuff out and have too many nuffs in your team for round 27 or 26 when all of these players are being rested. So that's probably the way I'd play that, mate. Mark with the next one got AFB, Willison and Finu, 4 trades remaining and nothing in the bank. Could I nuff Haas? I mean, with those 3, again, I just mentioned it then, like, could you nuff Haas? Yeah, you could, but I'd probably rather a warm body than anything. You got no bank, but you can make some good cash by going down to someone that's like a mid-tier option at front row forward. I haven't looked into any mid-tier options, but jump in the you're in the Discord, Mark. Ask me in there, mate, and we'll go through it because I actually haven't had some time to look through any kind of decent downgrade options at front row forward. But I'd want a player in round 27 to answer your question. Fitzy Sports Podcast, bringing in Tarpany and buying 1 high upside centre wing, or do I play Liam Henry and buy 2 upside centre wings? I would probably bring in Tarpany and 1 high upside centre wing. I think, you've got some good options at centre wing as well. I don't know whether you're going to need 2 high upside ones. Hopefully you've got your Manus and your Dom Youngs and your Garricks and your Carrazas and, there's a million options at centre wing. Hopefully you've got 4 decent ones already. I don't know whether you need to go and pull the trigger on 2 more of them. I think 1's fine and solidify that front row forward. So you don't have to rely on Liam Henry every single week. That's not ideal. Lyle asking, what about Campbell to Ponga? Absolutely. 100%. Don't even think twice about that trade. I'd feel really good about making probably 100K by going Jaden Campbell to Ponga. And obviously, there's plenty of upside with Jaden Campbell, but if you look at the Titans draw, it's not amazing. We spoke about it last week. Josh was really high on Brian Kelly, who scored well last week. I'm just not really loving the Titans draw. The fact that, they've got a little bit to play for still, but we know that Campbell can go kind of low when things don't go his way. 40 odd last week. He can go sub 40s. He is capable of that. So Titans are going to need to put some points on the board for Campbell to score well. And Ponga this week is the most purchased player for a very good reason, playing against the Tigers. So definitely would be doing that. Reese is asking, is Teddy to Ponga sideways with 4 trades left? Yes, I think it is. To answer your question quickly, I'd want 5 or 6 trades to make that move because I just feel like that we're going to need these trades with injuries and stuff, head-to-head finals, round 27 restings. We've spoken about it all show. So I think there's every chance that, you're going to want Teddy on the run home as well. Teddy and the Roosters draw is so fucking good for the run home. The fact they've got a bye this week maybe leans to the fact they won't rest. I'm hoping, maybe I'm trying to talk myself into that, but I know that you're leaving some points off the field this week by not getting Ponga in and sticking with Teddy. It just depends on who your other fullback is as well. I'm assuming it's Turbo Reese. If that's the case, I think you've made your bed, and I think you've got to lie in it with this. Trades are going to be king for the run home. I think it's super important that we have some left. Raymond Crane, I have Hopewadi at fullback 2 to go, and Ponga is tempting. Mate, if you have that, you basically have an open invitation to get Ponga in this week. And to answer Craig's question as well at the back end here, Ponga or Lomax, it's absolutely Ponga. If you can get Ponga in this week and you don't have to trade a Teddy or a Turbo to get him, I would absolutely do it. If you're in a must-win head-to-head situation as well, Ponga is the guy you want. Even Marju. If you don't have Marju, buy Marju at centre wing. Those two guys are going to feast this week. And I really hope I'm not jinxing them, but fuck, it's looking pretty bloody good. So those are the matchups I'd definitely be targeting this week. Ange makes a good point in the chat. Jai Gray versus the Tigers next week might be a hold, and that's completely fair enough. To answer Cornography's question, how many coaches can realistically win the 50K? Let me just quickly bring up the rankings. So if we look at the rankings, we've got Bryce's boys in 1. He's 70 points ahead of 2. So Mark, host of the NRL All-Stars podcast, is in 2nd overall, which is cool. He's 74 points behind 1st. And then Mark is also 69 points ahead of 3rd. So there's about 140 points difference between 1st and 3rd. Randy's late mail is in 4th, another 30 points behind there. So if we look at top 10, right, we go down to the 10th person, which is Kyle, Lovey's meat readers. And he is currently 300 points behind. I think with 5 rounds left, 300 points is possible. And we saw last year what can happen in round 27 if you don't have trades in the bank. I think the winner last year, he went from 1st to 7th or something because he was decimated that much. He led basically the whole season. He led the competition, or nearly from like round 7 or something all the way through to the end, lost in the last round because he didn't have numbers. So anything can happen, but I think realistically the only people that can win are probably the top 6. I reckon the guys in the top 6, John Hindsights is still in the chance. He is about 180 points behind. But 7th is then 60 points behind 6th. So I think, it's going to be pretty tough for 7th onwards, but I think top 6 can still win. Got 6 trades, FC Sports. So that was the first question we answered around Haas, AFB, Tarpany and Fainu. I think you definitely can go Haas to Willison, who would probably be my play if I was in that situation. Go Haas to Willison, and then you can use the cash elsewhere and even find another upgrade or 2 and still have 4 trades in the bank. So that's a good position to be in for sure. Swift to Bryce to Carrigan or McInnes. McInnes is playing. He got named at hooker this week because Blake Brayley's in the halves. We might see Brayley in the halves for another week or 2 then. I don't know whether I love McInnes at hooker. It's like Plath going to hooker. He went kind of quiet because he lost all of his run meters. So unless we're expecting McInnes to find some attacking stats, I'd probably just rather Carrigan, to be honest. He's not going to be rested. He's going to play with plenty of pride as well. So I'd probably go Carrigan, mate, out of those 2. And last question from Cornography, play Campbell versus the Sharks or Kai Pearce-Paul versus the Tigers. I mean, look, it's anyone versus the Tigers, really, isn't it? The Sharks are they're a top 3 defensive Supercoach team. They concede the 3rd least, I think it is, 3rd or 4th least Supercoach points this season, whereas the Tigers concede the most. So there's your answer, mate. Back in Kai Pearce-Paul. Guys, that'll wrap us up. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for hanging around and chatting NRL Supercoach. We're around 23. Good luck for your head-to-heads as well. We're going to be coming to you with the Insight Unlimited Q&A. That'll be coming to you around 23. Plenty of relevant questions coming in already for that one. So I'll record that one tomorrow night. If you got this far, please hit subscribe. If you haven't yet, hit that like button so we can reach more people. And if you're listening to us on audio, hit that follow button. Leave us a 5-star review if you like the content. And lastly, join the free Discord. It's in the link in the description below. Just click on the link. If you've never used Discord before, hop in my DMs. I'll walk you through it. I've got an awesome community in there that talks Supercoach, and it's not just NRL. It's AFL, it's BBL, it's NBL. We've also got NBA, and we've got fantasy football in there as well. FPL, if you're an FPL kind of guy, and for those of you that like to play a few games, whether it be PlayStation, PC, whatever, you can get in and have a chat about some gaming as well. Thanks for hanging around, and this is Mr. Potato Head signing off. See you tomorrow night.